This is part 4 of the Painting Baby Yoda tutorial. If you have not yet seen parts 1, 2, and 3, check the link in the description below. Let's get into it. Okay, so I finished blending that, and then as I moved out I realized we didn't finish his hands. So let's add another layer. You can bring this one down underneath that layer we just did. Get your paintbrush, again your coarse watercolor brush, and pick that dark blue you had done before. And we're just going to go do the darkest darks in here real quick. You can use your sketch if you're not really sure where to put it. I still have my sketch turned off. I'm just going to leave that because this doesn't take too long. Now we'll start to put this dark right here, even though it doesn't really matter because it's going to be even darker than that by the time we're done, but just to accentuate that sleeve shape there. And let's do the same thing on the other side. It's got kind of little chubby finger type shapes going on here. I'm going to turn this on here. Yeah. And you can see better where you're supposed to be lined up. I'll put this in here again too. A little bit of shadow. Just to give us that line. It disappears here so we don't have to do it there. Alright, we're going to quick blend that. Okay, now we'll go back to this. You can blend this or merge this hand layer we just did with the one underneath. And then now go to the green one, go back to the green color. Make sure your brush is selected and do that kind of medium tone again. Medium to light. Just in a few areas here that'll be changing, but I'm going to bring it down just to give shape to those hand bumps and knuckles that just barely are showing. Kind of blurred out because of the depth of field that they're using for the camera, but that's okay. Blend this out now too. And now let's see here. See, and even though you're blending it, you still see some of your what looks like brush strokes, so it gives it that kind of neat painted effect. Okay. Now we are going to merge this layer with the main one. Add a new layer. We're going to change this color. Let's look at our picture here. We want this kind of right at the top of his eye and above his brow. It's kind of almost a lime green. So we're going to bring this up and then we're going to darken it just a little bit. Now that's the color we want, kind of this avocado green. I'm going to drag that and save it. We're going to replace, we'll replace the one we just did. So I'm going to do that if you don't want it. If you don't want to do that, then replace a different color, but I'm just going to put it there. So I have colors that I use all the time for a lot of paintings, and I don't really want to replace them, because then I got to go back and look for them later, try to figure out what I was using. But if you're starting new, you don't have a whole bunch of them in there. Alright, so there's a few areas where this really shows. So we're going to, let's see, our brush should be a little bit bigger. Because this has sort of a bloom quality to it, so we're just gonna kind of go over a whole area. It kind of lightens. We'll go down here. We don't want it to go into the eye, so we'll just put it, make it smaller. This is actually a reflection from the edge of his eye. Looks like. I don't think he's got snake style eyelids, but I haven't noticed. I think I would have noticed. I think they would have really accentuated that if he did. Kind of birds and snakes, they kind of have that nictitating membrane that looks a little bit kind of creepy when lizards and stuff. We're just kind of going right over some of these areas because it's sort of giving it this overall color change. Okay, let's see here. Decide if we missed anything besides his hands. Yeah, but you're starting to see, I think, the overall picture showing through now, and you know why I'm doing it the way I do it. Alright, pull out your favorite blender again. And now when we get the blackest blacks, like in his eye, and a couple spots like under his nose, and in his mouth, and the edges of the shadows, and then the lightest lights, that's when you'll really be happy with it, I think. And that's when it just goes, oh, everything I just did makes sense now. You know, when I first started doing it, it's like, oh, well, how will this look? Oh my gosh, I like that. That's cool. So that's what a lot of this is, just playing around and trying different things and seeing what works, what you don't like. See how all the different colors we've used now, as you blend this together, they're all there. They all start showing. And they all add a little bit of detail to his skin. Okay, now we're going to start working on the robes. So what you want to do is first take that layer we were just working on and merge it with the one beneath, and then create a new layer First we want a color that's right in the middle, and I kind of chose this. It's not too saturated, kind of a nice sandy color. It's not too light, not too dark, maybe a little bit lighter than what we've already got down here. And now we're not going to use this paintbrush this time. I love this watercolor brush, but we are going to do something a little bit different, a little bit more advanced, but this just helps you realize the different settings for these brushes and how you can manipulate them to use them to your advantage. Now, because these robes have kind of a very coarse blanket type texture, we're going to choose the chalk pastel, and now there's one that's charcoal blend, but if you can see the image here of its texture, it's a little bit too light. We want something a little coarser looking, so this one works good for us, but that's not all we want to do. We're going to go down here to the nib. The shape doesn't matter, but we do want to change the scale of the texture, because right now this is the texture. It's kind of a medium graphite, rough paper kind of texture, just a little bit lighter. See, now as we raise this up, the scale, you get more of this bumpy pattern. Now we also want to change, I believe it's in the stamp area, the spacing. So maybe about a 1.5 here. Mostly what you want to change is the scale. Oh, brightness helps too a little bit. Let's bring that down to about maybe -5. Try that. Contrast. We want to keep the contrast maybe right around 30, 25, 30, somewhere in there. Try that. And yeah. All right, let's give this a shot here. We'll try it. Okay. So remember, we're on that chalk pastel, and it's the rougher looking one. If it isn't in your toolbar here, you can find it in the library. It was probably under, not textures, but where did it? Yeah, pastels. You'll probably find it in the pastel area. But because it has that little gold band, I'm pretty sure it's one of the ones that just could be under this texture essentials, but it might have also been one of your basic group. Okay. All right, let's see. We might want to change the color a little bit, but we'll leave it at this. Let's make our image a little bigger. And we are going to just kind of start putting this in. It's a little bit brighter than I thought it would be, so maybe we want to bring the flow down a little bit. I'm going to hit undo. Okay, I'm going to bring the flow down, or the opacity down. We're going to bring the size up some more. Let's bring it in a little bit more. Okay, that's good. There, and don't press too heavy. The harder you press, well, it makes it bigger for one thing. But you also don't want it to fill in too much. See, so I'm going to do those last couple strokes. Start here and just kind of, move your pencil around. You don't have to be, it doesn't seem to matter if it's nice long strokes. I'd rather keep them lumpy, just like the type of cloth we're painting here. Kind of mimic that shape with your brush strokes. Leave some of the dark stuff showing through. And just kind of follow the shape here. Kind of brush a little bit bigger in some areas here. There is a feature that's kind of nice, but I really haven't had the use for it. Because I like to start off with a new layer, and you know, every time I add something new, because I like to be able to undo it and change things. I also like to be able to blend it without blending what's underneath. I'm just going to go off here. You don't have to follow along at this point. So there's this little lock button here on the actual layer. Okay, so if you lock it and then you come in here and you want to add, say, another color, I'll just I'm going to save this one. Let's say I wanted to go back with some light blue or something. I'll make that stand out. Now when I paint, and you have to still be on the layer that you locked in order to do this, and this is why I end up not using it so often, because I like to start on a new layer when I have a new paint layer, or a new paint style. So when I paint on this, you see I'm actually going off the edge, but it won't paint off the edge. So for some things that's very helpful. So that, you know, it's basically like a mask. Creates a mask of the area that's painted. You can't paint past it. But that only works if you're staying on the same layer that has that. Now, same thing if I go now and I want to blend. So you want to blend, but see, now it's going to blend both of those paint colors together. And you may not want that to happen. So it all depends on what you're trying to achieve, on if this will work. Now, it's not going to blend anything off the page. It won't push these colors off of that area. So I'm going to hit undo until that's gone. I like how Sketchbook has a lot of undos. I never counted, but it's got quite a few. And then I'm going to turn off this lock. Okay. Go back to my course in the correct color. My coarse pastel here. Okay, we're going to continue. But yeah, this is definitely giving us that texture that we want. The last time I played around using this texture was actually, I did a painting of John Wick, which you can find on my YouTube channel there. And because it was a close-up of his face, and he was dirty and sweaty and, you know, all John Wick-like, the pores, like, around his nose and on his cheeks, and, you know, and because Keanu Reeves getting a little bit older, you know, the wrinkles were kind of showing a bit around his eyes, areas like that. This really helped get that close-up skin texture. We're going to blend, but we're going to do it very lightly. Let's bring the flow down, but I want the size of the brush up quite a bit. Now, in this case, because you don't want to go over the edges of the outfit, I think I will lock it. Click this little lock, and now when we blend, it'll stay within the area. See, you're not really losing that, just kind of softening it up a bit. Now we will do another layer. We're going to use the same chalk pastel with that same setting, but we're going to change the color. We're going to be in the same value, but we're just going to bring it down and over just a tiny bit. We want it kind of that orangey, ochre, ambery kind of dark color in there. Might even want to go darker, but we'll try this, okay? And now we're going to zoom in. We're going to do these darker areas. You know what? We can even go darker than that, so I'm going to undo. and maybe a little bit more to the red. Let's bring this down a little bit into the orangey red area. And then pull this down just a tiny bit, about right there. That's probably good. No, right there. And I will replace, although I do have a color that's very similar, replace that one. Okay. Now the other thing I want to do is I want to make this texture even bigger. So we're gonna bring this up, the scale of it up just a little bit more, almost to the top. Let's see what we get. So now we're going to take that dark brown color that we just picked, and we are going to just go over all the darkest areas of his robes, all the shadows, all the areas where a little of the dark kind of peeks out, just to add some of that depth. And now I'm just seeing here if we want to put that dark layer underneath the lighter layer. Just see what that looks like. Nah, I think I like it back on top. Now we're going to go with our wash brush and we're going to smooth everything out just a little bit. Okay, now we're going to add another layer above the dark layer, and we're going to go back to our chalk pastel and leave all the settings. And in our colors, we're going to pick something much brighter, kind of a sandy, lighter sandy kind of color that's a little bit orangier, almost a cream color here. And these are going to be the lightest areas, not the brightest highlight, but the lightest areas. And we're just going to go over that real quick. And again, grab your wash brush and just smooth it all out a little bit. Now we're going to add one more layer. Use this same brush. We're going to take this dark blue, like a navy blue. You can use the same one you used before on the face. We're going to make our brush a little smaller, like it already is, and we're just going to go into a couple of these areas where the bumps are the darkest, and in the dark shadow areas here. See now, especially when you look up close, you see all these other colors in here that are showing through, these greens And you wouldn't say you would do this in green, but it just adds a lot more interest, and it still looks right in the end. Now, yeah, you could just quickly do this with, the basic colors that you see and be done, but that's the difference between, it shows. If you just have some patience and take the time to do it. Okay, again, same blending the wash brush here. Just go over it lightly. Now what we're going to do is we are going to merge each layer one by one all the way. Actually, we'll just do his robe. So first one, merge with the one underneath, and merge that one, and then the next, and then we'll leave it right there. So we'll have his outfit and the rest of him separate for now. That way when we do any more shadows on his face, they'll stay underneath. That was part 4 of the Painting Baby Yoda tutorial. Be sure to join me for part 5. We're not done yet. Thanks for watching.